You know, it's really difficult to bleed the brakes when the nozzle's busted off the back of the cylinder. Huh. Alright, well, let's get that fixed. What's up, guys? My name is Andy. In this video, we're going to go over replacing the cylinder for the rear drums on my 66 Mustang. But it's only driven because I was going to try to replace this rear brake line. In my car, somebody put in the wrong rear brake line inside here, and I've got the correct one now that's supposed to mount to the breather nozzle of the rear axle. But to do that, you need to bleed the brakes when you're done. Well, I was double checking everything to make sure that I could bleed the brakes. Everything was in place, and that's when I noticed that nozzle was busted off of that cylinder. In fact, that's on the other side. And so I figured, well, you know what, since I got to take that apart, let's just take a look at these rear drums. And that's when I noticed that I've also got a busted cable here. There's a handful of parts that I need to replace. So I can see that somebody has been in here because this is a new part, but everything else is used and old and rusty. And so I'm going to go in here and freshen up these springs and these components. The shoes are fine, we don't need to replace those, and the drums are fine themselves, but I'm just going to get these components cleaned up and then get that cylinder replaced on the other side. So let's get started. Before we get started here, there's a couple of tools that make this job easier. One of these kind of rear drum disassembly tools, I don't know what you call it, it's got special stuff on the ends that make it easier to disassemble and put together the drum system, as well as one of these. In fact, this is used for pushing on that, and you can twist it and get this spring off without breaking anything. You can do it with other tools, but it sure is nice to have something like this, and you can get these at any auto parts store. There is an order to taking this apart and putting it back together. I like to take a picture with my cell phone so I can remember which springs go where on top of which piece. You'll find that most stuff won't go in anywhere but the place it's supposed to be in, but it does need to go in a certain order. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start taking off this top stuff here, and we'll work our way down and take the stuff down below. What I've got here is just a kit that includes the springs and pieces for both sides of the drums for the rear. And then I've also got that piece, that I was showing earlier that piece was busted, that cable. So that's this whole adjuster kit down here, and we'll just replace all these new pieces as well. I'll go ahead and put the part numbers in the description below. Now, normally this is where you would replace the cylinder if you were doing this drum, but that's the other side of the car. So we're gonna go ahead and start putting the shoes back in place and put everything back together. I like to put a little bit of just this bearing grease on these high spots here on the drum backing plate so that the shoes can pivot just a little more easily on those spots. You don't want to put too much because you don't want to get this on the shoes themselves. Okay, so that's how you get all this put together. You can kind of see here from the picture, you know, at least from the kit that I have, these two blue springs are on this side, the yellow spring on this side. This bracket, there is a right and left kit for the bracket that has this piece down here for the adjustment, and then this cable that goes around. So you want to make sure you get the right side for that. Everything else, these shoes are fine. Everything else in here is fine. The drum, or the cylinder, I believe, is fine. We'll find out afterwards. But this is all put back together. And you may need to adjust this down here at the bottom, depending on how your shoes fit, so that you can put the drum back on. There we go. Now we can go to the other side. We can go ahead and put that. I'm going to take everything apart on the other side so we can get to that cylinder. All right, now we got all the pieces off to get this to this cylinder. And what we need to do is we need to get to the back side of it so we can get after this flare nut right here on the brake line, and then these 2 1/2" that are holding the cylinder inside the drum backplate. I would recommend using one of these flare wrench. They have a tendency to hold on, oh, that was really easy, to the brake line really easy, so you don't strip these things out. You want to be pretty careful. This brake fluid is corrosive, so you don't want to get it on any paint surfaces. If you do, you want to wipe it off right away. And then we can go after these 2 1/2" bolts that are holding the cylinder to the drum plate. Now we can pry this piece off of here. There we go. And this, yeah, there's no point in saving that. All right, let's put the new one in. This is what the new unit's going to look like. And you do need to pay attention to what side the brake line is on. So in this case, this is the passenger rear, or the right-hand side. And this needs to be on the back because the line is on the back edge. If we were on the other side of the car, it would be facing this way, and the line runs along the back side of the axle, so it would actually go into this port on this side. So make sure you get the right side, or the correct side for your car. Just put this in here, like so. And then these bolts that we took out, these 1/2" bolts, just gotta thread them back in the back there. All right, tighten those up. Okay, those are tight. Now we can go ahead and put the line in. And sometimes it takes a little bit to get this brake line started in there, but that's okay, you'll get it. We also need to, we're going to reuse these pieces, these ear pieces or whatever they're called, and put them in here. We don't need to use new ones, we can just use these. So we'll just take them out of this cylinder and put them in there. And they just plug into the side. There's nothing fancy, and they just push them in, and then they'll just stick inside this rubber boot. Okay, from here we can go ahead and put the rest of this drum assembly back on. And it looks like that. Okay, so we got everything in place. I went, like, again, just like the other side, I went ahead and replaced the springs and these fittings and pieces and stuff in here. I saved the clips. Like, there's a clip that goes right there. When you change these shoes out, these shoes are fine. I don't need to do anything with those, but I save those pieces in case I do get some new shoes down the road. I can reutilize the rest of the pieces from this kit. And I use this adjustment down here to push these shoes out so that it fits the drum when I put it on. And as you go to put it on there, it should be a snug fit. There we go. All right, now that's in place. Now I can actually get to the job that I was actually going to do, which was install this new brake line, this intermediate brake line that goes from the chassis to the axle, where it splits up in these two holes here. And that big hole, it actually goes through the vent in the axle, which looks like this piece right here. I just went ahead and got a new one of those. I probably don't need it, but we got it anyways. I'll put the part numbers down below, and now I can get to this. So guys, that was a quick video on how to replace the drum cylinder inside your drum brakes. Again, I only did the one side. I probably could have done the other side, and if you guys are in there replacing all that stuff, it's probably not a bad idea to replace that cylinder anyways. I think it was 10 bucks for the one on the other side. This one didn't look too bad, so I didn't replace it, but you know, for another $10, maybe I should have. I do have to get back in here because I need to do the parking brake. Again, previous owner or somebody just cut it off, and I got to get back in here and replace those cables and stuff. So I'll be back in here, and I may have to replace that cylinder then. Now I can get back to the job of replacing that intermediate line and getting that done, and then I need to bleed the brakes, which will be another video. So guys, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, and if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out, and we'll see you in the next one.